Okay, so we've made all our decisions that we need. We've gathered up all of our components that we're going to need. Now we're ready to start the fun stuff. So the first thing we've got to do is figure out how we're going to lay out the speakers in the enclosure. We want to make sure when we're using, especially if we're using a large size battery, that we're not going to place the speaker where it's going to contact it and not shut the lid, right? That would be the worst case scenario where we've got big holes drilled in our $50 box and now there's no way to use it. So let's go through what that looks like to decide how we're placing our speakers. Okay, so a couple of things to consider when you're positioning, laying out where your speakers are going to be in your enclosure is depth, right? What's the mounting depth of the speaker? What's the total inside depth of the enclosure? How thick is my battery? How far up in that enclosure is it going to sit? So there are specs for everything online, I'm sure, but you could also take a quick tape measure. You can measure from the bottom of the face where it's going to mount on the box to the bottom of the speaker, and on this one we've got roughly 2.5 inches, somewhere around in there, pretty close to 2.5. So we want to make sure that the depth of our lid, how far down inside this lid this is going to sit. And our measurement here is a little over 1.75 inches. So we're going to have about 1/2 inch, a little more than 1/2 inch sticking below the lid of the speaker. So now what we need to make sure of is if we put our battery in place down here that we have that much clearance between the batteries. So you can take your battery, lay it down in your box, and you're going to simply measure from the top of the battery to the top edge of the box. We've got about 1.75 inches. That's going to give us plenty of space. That means that we can position our speakers inside the lid however we like it. Whether they're side by side, we do them catty-cornered in the corners, whatever you want to do, and we can place our battery anywhere inside the box that we choose. We can put it in the middle, we can go over to one side. If we want it to stand up straight, we can put it on the bottom where this is going to be sitting to keep the weight down at the lower end. So completely up to you, but we know on this one in particular, we've got anything we want. Okay, once you've decided where your battery is going to go and how you're going to position the speakers to make sure it's going to clear, now we want to talk about where we're going to position them in the actual case, right? Are they sized correctly where they can go side by side? If not, is the speaker too big? Well, we're going to have to do a corner to corner. Do we like that look better? Do we want to do this corner or this corner? If the battery size is affecting where you can put your speaker, make sure that you plan. For instance, if this box was not deep enough, we would have to put our battery here or put our battery here, right? You want to make sure that you plan for that ahead of time. So as long as you have enough space like we do on this one where you can do them side by side, that's what this customer has chosen to do. This example will show a side by side. So the next thing to do, once you figured out will it fit, is we want to find our center point so that we can cut our hole, right? You don't want to wind up looking like this or have it over here too far to one side, too far apart, hanging off the edge, or where they're overlapping, it won't even go on, right? So finding your position, pretty important. Okay, so there's a couple of ways to find the center line or the center of the circle. Some of these speaker manufacturers send templates, right? So this would be the inside diameter of what you would need to cut out of the box, and you can line that up. And this gives you kind of an outside edge of where the speaker grill is going to be, so you make sure that it's not going to overlap. You can use that to draw your circle. There's also specifications for almost every single manufacturer that give you the hole cutout size. So let's say it's 5 1/4 or 5 1/8, whatever it may be. You can get a hole saw that matches that size. Then it's just a matter of lining this up, getting it where it wants, finding your center point, and then drilling it out. We're going to show an example of both in another video of how you can do just that, cut out the boxes. So that's what we're going to do on this step. Measure twice, cut once. Don't forget. So to find the center point of the circle, most manufacturers will send some kind of a template. It may look like that. Some of them may have seals that go around that will give you your diameter of your speaker enclosure hole. Some of them will be part of the box, such as the JVC and Kenwoods, right? And this doesn't do you a whole lot of good because this doesn't, if you're going to use a hole saw, it doesn't really show you where the center is, right? You could be offset in the center. All it gives you is the perforated hole cutout and where your speakers are going to mount. So a simple little thing is take a straight edge and go center to center across all of the mounting screws, and where they meet in the middle is your center point. You can poke a little hole in that. Now you can take this and position it where you're going to be. You know that that's exactly where your speaker is going to sit. You can mark that hole, and that gives you your spot where you need to drill with your hole saw. If you're not going to use a hole saw, you're going to use a jigsaw. That's where these plates will come in. Again, you position it where your speaker is going to need to sit, about like that. Draw the inside of this circle, and then you'll cut that out with your jigsaw. So that's how you're going to find the location of where your speakers go.